Hello, how are you? I am Burke and you're watching Road Odyssey. Hey, glad you can make it. Thank you so much for checking out this video on Sulphur Springs, Texas. Lots of history here. So, I will be touching base on a few things that I am aware of. So give me any comments below if you have anything to say or any questions to ask. And I would like you to please subscribe below. That would be great. So, Sulphur Springs, Texas, it's been growing and growing and growing over the years. I've only been aware of Sulphur Springs, Texas since I married my wife and got in with her family. So a lot of the information that I have is based on stories and just my observations of the city itself. So let's just kind of begin getting into it. Pew. Sulphur Springs was originally named Bright Star in the 1840s. Here's an overview of Sulphur Springs. We're starting with 30 on the south, then 11 east to west also, 154 north to south, and 19 north to south. In this map I show 11 and 19, and the highlights, the Ghost Light, DeBord property, and over there at the City Cemetery, the Dairy Museum, and the parks. Right, so my first story is about the DeBord family. They had settled into that area that is northwest of the town. It's out kind of over by the airport, but they had lots of land out there. So they were well off. They had an old Victorian home. Here is our Victorian home from 1897. Under a bunch of old oak trees, and is right along this one road. And they were very well known for people who would travel through going in and out of Sulphur Springs. They had a well up under these couple of oak trees right next to their house, and they constantly had ice blocks put into that well, so people always had nice cold fresh water. They also had several barns, but over time, this stuff got burned down by, I guess, young, crazy family members. You know, we've all got them. So, but one of the other nice things that this family did was there was no cemetery in the city that could be deemed as a black cemetery. So this family had a road named after them. Just a small road. And they gave a very large plot of land for the blacks so that they had a nice cemetery of their own right next door to the big city cemetery. So let's take a look at these couple of things. Here we are driving down DeBord Road. This one section of land right here that's clear, it's where the house and the barns were. The tree line all along through here outlines the edge of the current DeBord property. And here we are getting into the Black Cemetery. It's something that if you're a part of the black community, you might try talking to the city and seeing if they can't do a little bit more to help maintain this actually very lovely piece of property. Here again, we're looking at the piece of property where the
DeBord home was and the well that had nice cold water.
Now, another story that I enjoyed is the ghost light. So, what had happened long time ago, just say kind of the late 1800s, there was supposedly a man who had an accident on the railroad that runs north of Sulphur Springs and kind of angles down into it.
The location is just northwest of Sulphur Springs, right off 11, just south of the lake.
But apparently he was crossing a bridge, his foot got caught, and subsequently he got ran over by an old steam engine. And so for decades upon decades, you could see him swinging his lantern, trying to get that train to stop. So anyway, it's called the ghost light.
This is what you would see if it was nighttime. You'd see a small light way down the railroad tracks coming towards you. There's a train west of town coming into Sulphur Springs, getting close to the ghost light location. This is County Road 4703 that'll take you out to the ghost light. Here we are at the ghost light viewing location. That's actually looking east, south down the road that we came on, and now we're looking west. And it's looking west that you want to do to look for this light.
All right, now there's a lot of old historic homes in Sulphur Springs, so I won't say that they are great novelties or anything like that, but at least relative to the city, there are some decent, pretty old homes that are kind of neat. And so here's one right here.
This house was completed in December of 1939. It is a two-story colonial revival style home. This is the Ashcroft House. The father of Charles and Ruth had started the city's first electric company. The father was also the vice president of the Sulphur Springs State Bank and co-owner of the local Coca-Cola bottling company, and of course president of the school board. This property was originally the site of the house of druggist Ben Smith, built before the Civil War and described as the oldest house in the city when it was finally demolished in the 1930s.
Now, I took a few more pictures of other homes, and here's what some of them look like. Now, like a lot of the old cities, there's a lot of hustle and bustle with the trains that they were built up upon. And so I just kind of wanted to give you a quick perspective of the train environment today.
The first railroad line into Sulphur Springs came from Mineola, Texas in 1872. Another piece of history is the Orphan Train. This train ran from 1854 to 1929. About 250,000 kids were sent from the East Coast cities all across the U.S. and over 5 continents. Some of the children were really orphaned, others were kind of half orphaned, abandoned, and homeless. but the very last orphan train stopped in Sulphur Springs with 3 kids in 1929.
All right, and now these clips are going to be for the Dairy Museum. It's been there quite a long time, and it's just a nice place. It's over by the new high school and a lot of the other city facilities. So, check it out. It's kind of a neat place.
Throughout the late 1940s up to 1995 or so, the dairy industry was a major component of the Sulphur Springs area. The Dairy Museum has a lot of artifacts on the history of the dairy industry. It features all facets of milk production and the history of how dairy products were made. It has an old-fashioned soda bar where it still sells ice cream, soda, and light lunches to all the visitors. 2 exhibits include the life of a dairy farm before electricity and the separation of cream. This milk delivery wagon is an example of one that would have been used in the early 1800s all the way up through about 1946. The horses learned their routes so well that they knew when to start, stop, wait, and turn without even being guided or spoken to.
And since there's all kinds of things to do, you won't be wasting your time. It's a nice city, and I'd like to encourage you to go downtown. There's antiques, the big courthouse, which is beautiful. It is very much like Decatur's and several others up across this region. So, go downtown, check it out, and have a good time.
The courthouse was built in 1895 and is still used today. The courthouse was designed by James Riley Gordon. This courthouse has the same or similar design as the courthouses in Decatur, LaGrange, New Braunfels, San Antonio, Stephenville, Waco, Waxahachie, and Victoria. The Hopkins County Museum and Heritage Park is 11 acres of historic buildings that have been relocated to that location for reasons of restoration, preservation, and education. Anybody interested in history really needs to come see this park. Finally, we end here at the chapel. This is at the Sulphur Springs City Cemetery. There are lots of people who are here that date back well into the 1800s. I suggest, here again, if you're a history buff, come check this place out.
Well, thank you so much for watching this video. Really do appreciate it. Y'all are great. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I really appreciate you watching this video. It was fun to make, and there's a lot of history in Sulphur Springs. So hope you enjoy it, and y'all just have a fantastic day. Be safe out there on the roads, and I will see you later. Have fun. Bye.